In all seriousness, please subscribe to the channel. I want to talk to you today that there's a need for builders. There's a need for builders, and the reason for that need, there's a need for builders in this season. And so I started a Patreon called the Builders Room, where we're strengthening, empowering all the builders, because God is calling us to build. And this is the significant lesson to the builders, okay? I want to call out to the builders. I want to talk to the builders. I hope you identify as a builder. I know I'm talking to a certain matron of people who are ready to come out of captivity, come out of the old structures, the old ways of the church, and different things that God is calling us to. He's calling us to something new. He's shifting, but he's calling us to our own land. He's calling us back to dominion. He's calling us back to promise, back to miracles. He's reestablishing things in the house of God. And so we have a need for builders. And so I want to talk about some dynamics of the builders. When you look at Ezra 4, when Zerubbabel and all those people were coming out of captivity and they were going to build, I want to bring something to your attention. Read the chapter Ezra 4. But one thing that was significant about that, when they were coming out to build the temple of God for God again, right, coming out of captivity to build his temple, when they were coming out, one of the significant things about that time was that they had opposition that wanted to weaken their hands to build, that wanted to come against them. But the most significant part was the only 2 tribes out of 12 that came out to build was Judah and Benjamin. And so Judah and Benjamin, those 2 tribes out of 12 tribes, were coming out of captivity to build. The rest of them, it seemed as if they were fine being in captivity. They were accustomed to what the land offered. They were accustomed to the ways of the world that they were in when they didn't have their own land and they didn't have a temple to worship their God. They were accustomed to it. And so it was only 2 tribes out of 12 who came to build. And so there's a need for builders. There's a need for builders, whether it's 2 tribes, whether it's a distinction, whether God, and I believe God is raising up a remnant. It's looking real factual right now. Okay. And he's raising up a remnant to build. There's a need for builders. There's a need for growers. There's a need for people who have the skills and the mindset and the heart to reestablish the land. And so I want to encourage you. There's a need for you to come out and build. Here's the reason why we need to learn and to know how to build. Because before there was ever captivity, there was promise. And so the children of Israel came out of Egypt and they were moving into their promised land. Now remember the promise that came to them when they were coming to the promised land. He said, you're going to have houses that you did not build, and they're going to be stored up and blessed. You're going to have cities that you didn't build, houses, homes that you didn't build, you know what I'm saying? Lands that you didn't have to till, right? And so God was saying, as you come into the promise, there's going to be all this land that you didn't have to work, all these houses that you didn't have to build, and I'm giving it all to you. And so these are people who came into promise, didn't have to use the skill of building in order to be established. But once they went into captivity, the lands were back in ruin. The cities were destroyed. Come on, we got to read the Bible. The cities were destroyed. And so there was a need again for builders to come out of captivity and to establish God's ways, God's principles, and reestablish it in his land, his worship. And so do you have a heart to build? Are you a builder? Are you a grower? Are you somebody who knows how to separate the grain, separate the wheats from the tares? Like, this is what we need in this season. And so I want to encourage you. There is a need for builders. Hit that Patreon link and meet me in the builders room. God bless you.